Hi, my name is Phoebe Russell, and I'm examining the poem Girl Made Me Cry by Laura Tate for my major project. The poem is about a relationship between a teacher and a student that holds an impactful but temporary bond. The teacher is going through the heartbreak of losing one of her students due to her moving. The teacher wants to be there to see her grow but can't due to the instability she faces at home. A section of the poem that really shows the imagery that conveys the theme of this poem is we walk down the quiet hall, listening to the sounds of our shoes. She reaches for my hand, and like a teacup falling from the top of a tall building, my heart shatters. The first line, we walk down the quiet hall, paints a picture of an empty hallway, emphasizing the stillness and the moment before separation. The quiet setting reflects how emotional the situation is and highlights the departure that is shortly ahead of them. The second line, or the next line, listening to the sounds of our shoes, emphasizes the quietness of the hallway that was previously described. It really emphasizes how they just take a minute to not say anything. They're not saying their goodbyes or anything, but they just kind of sit in the moment and allow what's about to happen to really sink in. And then the next line, she reaches for my hand, is very powerful. This establishes a physical contact between the teacher and student, which really shows how much they trust and how much they trust each other and the affection that they share. Even showing how brief relationships can be deeply meaningful. For this little girl to feel comfortable enough to grab the teacher's hand, that meant that this teacher must have meant a lot to her, because she felt comfortable enough to reach out and seek comfort from this teacher. You know, she was probably very emotional herself, and for her to reach out and physically grab her hand could also be a goodbye too, but really cements the feelings that this little girl must have felt. And what it could also mean is she understands or could tell that her teacher was also very emotional, because kids can be very observant, and she probably could feel that she also needed the same comfort that she was needing in the moment. Then the next line, like a teacup falling from the top of a tall building, it is a simile, but I wanted to include it because I feel that it's very important to the theme, because it creates a vivid picture of a fragile object, like in this case, a teacup, right, falling from a very tall building. And the teacup represents the teacher's heart and her emotional vulnerability. She loves this little girl and just wants to see her thrive, but never will because she's moving away with her dad, right? So the emotional side of her and her heart is this teacup that's falling because she's losing grip of it. She can't control her sadness and vulnerability anymore when she sees her student leaving for one last time. So it just indicates that she lost grip of her emotions. She can't hold back her sadness anymore, right? And then what really solidifies this is the next line, my heart shatters. This really this is the perfect ending, if in my opinion, right? Especially for a gut-wrenching poem like this, right? So this is at the end of the last line in the last simile, and it reinforces what happens when the teacup reaches the ground, which it shatters, meaning that the teacher's heart shatters, indicating that seeing this little girl leave for the last time is what broke her. We went over all these other things in the poem that caused her emotions, going over the flashcards, her bringing her breakfast in, like she does every day, like their routine, showing all this sadness throughout, but seeing this little girl leave is what finally broke her heart and what made her realize she won't see her ever again. So that final moment is where you finally see this teacher break, which is very sad. And so overall, these images do an amazing job at relaying what the poem's theme is, which is how fragile emotional bonds can be, especially between teachers and students. Teachers care deeply for their students, and you can clearly see this when reading the poem. And you can understand how much it affects both parties when it comes to leaving, right? Because you have this little girl who's physically reaching her hand out, who doesn't want to go and leave her teacher, but has to, who is seeking comfort and all these emotions that she probably has, like an unstable home, and this was her stability. This teacher was her stability, but she has to let that go. And then you have this teacher who sees that this little girl is reaching out for her, sees that and wants to do something about it, but can't, because she's just her teacher. And she has to go home to her dad and face the instability that she does every day. And overall, I think that this poem is extremely important. And something to understand when reading this poem is that it encourages readers to recognize the emotional labor that teachers go through. And to see education as a human relationship rather than something that is just a part of an academic system. So these teachers and students share a connection between each other. They have a bond like no other. They're going to their teachers 5 days a week, besides all the breaks and stuff, for 9 months in a row, right? They are the people that they go to when they don't understand something. They are the people that they go to when they don't have stability in any other parts of their lives. They know that they can go to school and that their teacher will be there to teach them and to support them in ways that other people have let them down. And I just think it's important to recognize that, and to that's why this poem is so important. That's the message it relays, that these teachers will always be there for their students, and that it shouldn't be just something that people look at that is just that you're able to throw away, right? And it also shows how much teachers care for their students and their future and their well-being. Especially this teacher in this poem shows how much care and just emotions goes into being a teacher. They care so much honestly. They just want to see what's best for their students. They don't want to see them hurting. They don't want them to have to go home to something like her student is going through. Like they just want to see them thrive and to do something that they love and to learn to the best of their ability and help them grow, right? And I just think that's what this poem is really driving home, is that overall teachers aren't there to belittle or anything, or to bring down students. They're there to uplift them and to really bring out their potential, and they do that with the care and emotions that they show when they teach, or through their relationships with their students. But thank you for your attention and consideration for my interpretation. I hope you liked it.